Thank you, and thank you very much to the organizer for inviting me to give a talk. So my title is here, and I give you the plan of the talk. So first, I will give the definition related to standard problems in both number theory and study of algebraic curves. Then we'll see the problem is related to a well-known question called now relative Manin-Mumford conjecture for certain abelian varieties, and fundamental work of David Marcer and Umberto Zagné about this. And finally, I will explain how, if we accept non-separable Pelions, then we are forced to look at what is called generalized Jacobian and what can be said in this case. And this is joint work with these authors. So in one word, the talk is about unlikely intersection, a topic we've heard about already, especially in Francesco Amoroso's talk yesterday. And this is another aspect, and in fact, if I have time, I will give several other new type of aspects of unlikely intersections. Okay, so you know what Pell or Pell-Fermat equation is. That's over Z. And if you replace Z by the ring of polynomials in one variable over a field K, well, you have the definition of a Pellian polynomial, which is written here. We ask whether this equation, x squared minus dy squared equals 1, has a solution in polynomials. D is a polynomial with y not 0. And if it does have one, then the story is exactly the same as in number theory. So all solutions up to signs are given by the power of a minimal one. In other words, the group of solutions has rank 1. And this group is just the units of the quadratic ring written here. But contrary, so in number theory, any non-square D, integer non-square D, brings a solution, whereas of a function field, this is not true. So we say that the polynomial D is Pellian if there are solutions, non-trivial solutions, and then they form essentially a group of, well, they form a group of rank 1. So, well, if D is constant, the problem is not very interesting. When the degree, if you look at the degree of D, because x squared and y squared both even degrees, then you see that necessarily D must be of even degree. So after D equals 0, degree of D equals 0, we go to degree of D equals 2, here D quadratic polynomial. And then, well, things are just like in number theory. Every non-square quadratic polynomial is Pellian. So there is a solution to that equation when D has degree 2. And now what about going to higher degrees? So next is D equals 4. And already for D equals 4, well, the answer is often no. A quartic polynomial D is usually not Pellian. So this was observed a long time ago, essentially by Abel, as it is related to problems on abelian integrals. But before we think about Abel, let me point out a special case of quartic polynomials, which will be fundamental for my talk, because I'm going to study non-separable Pellians, as I said, or non-separable polynomial. So you see that I've taken a degree 4 polynomial here, t minus rho. Rho is a given number. Delta is quadratic, so now I have a quartic with a double root, okay? So non-separable quartic. So, well, in fact, in this case already, most D of this type are not Pelion. But there are still infinitely many values of rho for which D is Pelion. So it's a situation where both the set and the complement are infinite, but the set of rows such that D is Pelion is what I call sparse. I'll give the definition a bit later. So now this makes it clear what the problem is of going from a separable polynomial D to a non-separable one. It's just like looking at non-maximal orders and units in non-maximal orders. So as you know, in number theory, the only hypothesis on the number D is that it is not a square, but it can have square factors. That corresponds to looking at units in non-maximal orders. And the rank is the same. The rank is the same for the ring and for the maximal order and for the smaller orders. Well, it's not so in function fields. And this was observed, in fact, there's a paper of Schinzel in Acta Arithmetica a long time ago where he gives a very clear description of non-separable case of this type. But now let's go to D equals 4 without this special case. So to make the picture clearer, we shall take not one polynomial, because we want to say, has it got any chance of being a Pelion or not? So we take a family of polynomials parameterized by a parameter lambda, and S is a curve, and you can take for S the affine line, so you just have a family, lambda is just a parameter. And it can avoid some points, so we're not worried if we have to take some points away from the values of lambda, so that's why I call it S to enlarge for some flexibility. Also, S can be any algebraic curve. And we look at the set of lambdas such that the polynomial d lambda is Pelion. And now the definition of sparse is given here as infinite set, or interesting only for infinite set, is called sparse if it is in Q bar. Yeah, in the first slide I did say little k equals Q bar. So k is just abbreviation for Q bar, the field of algebraic numbers. And then a subset of Q bar is called sparse if for any given degree there is only finitely many elements of that degree in your set. Okay? So typically it's a situation where you have bounded the height of the elements of S, of the set, and then you know it is sparse. Yeah, and this is indeed what happens in this theory. Okay, so this is the theorem I will dedicate the whole talk to. So it's just some examples, but I hope they will make the various case maybe more concrete. I don't know. Anyway, it shows how involved the situation is. Prime does not denote derivative. You do not need to know what the derivative is. So it's to decipher these various cases. So the first case you see is D equals 4. Delta is for each lambda outside finite set is separable. Then I said that this delta lambda, the set of lambda such that delta lambda is Pelion, so there is a solution to Pell's equation, is infinite but sparse. Well, it's just what I said for the previous case. It's the same as quartic with a double root. Or quartic separable bring the same answer. Underneath you have delta dash lambda, and well, same conclusion. So why did I bother to write the two? We'll see much later. They correspond to very different situations. Okay, well, Marsa and Zanier studied the first really serious case, which is d equals 6. And here is a sample of their result. The first family d lambda of degree 6 has only finitely many lambdas in Q bar, remember, such that d lambda is Pelian. So you see, usually d lambda is not Pelian. Most sextic polynomial, at least separable like this one, are not Pelian. On the other hand, the second one, d dash, so 6.2, well, it is again a separable polynomial, but the lambdas such that d dash lambda is Pelian. Well, now there are infinitely many of them, but sparsely so. So what's the difference? Well, it will become clearer later. And now, what is S? K is Q bar. S of Q bar is the, well, S is an algebraic curve, and I'm looking at its points. But you can take the affine line. Okay, so the last two examples, you have sextic polynomials, but non-separable, as you say. Well, in fact, as you don't see, there is a little mistake here. You must add a square. Of course, it's sextic polynomial. So, so you see, so this corresponds to work with Marsa, Pillet, Zanier, and also with Edixhoven. But we have two examples, again, of sextic non-separable polynomials. The delta are explained at the bottom, at the top, and the answer, well, here is finite set. Here, the set is equal to this one, and if you can look a little bit above, you see it's infinite but sparse. So the two situations here are very different. Finite set, infinite sparse set. And well, that's now we want to explain how this can happen, these differences. Okay? So, well, here's a slide which explains how to relate units in a function field, in a function ring, a ring of functions on a curve, on an affine curve, ring of regular function on an affine curve, to a problem of relative Manin-Mumford type. So you see, I take a curve, and since time goes fast, take the curve v square equals d of t, so hyperelliptic curve when d is at least 6, and if d equals 4, an elliptic curve. So this is, and there are 2 points at infinity, I tell it right now. So when you look at the affine curve there, it has 2 points missing in order to get a complete curve. So the genus is written here, and that's the only reason for having introduced K. On this slide only, I mentioned that if K is Fp bar, then the rank of the unit groups modulo the constant is exactly equal to the number of deleted places minus 1. In other words, the situation is just the same as in number theory, as in Dirichlet's theorem, over Fp bar. But when you go, as we are, over Q bar, then this is false. The rank of the units can be much smaller. So S, in our case, S will be equal to 1. There are 2 points deleted. And so if S is not equal to 1, it is equal to 0. But this is much more general. And here is the proof. Well, it's classical exact sequence from the units to the divisors supported at the points deleted points. And then you take their linear equivalence class, that is their image in the Jacobians of the complete curve V hat. And clearly you see this, this group has rank S. This is very easy, it's written explicitly there. And so the rank of this one is at most equal to S, and is equal if and only if the image of our divisor here is 0. Then you have isomorphism of these two groups, and the first one is of rank S. Okay, so we see that for the rank to be equal to S, the necessary condition is that the divisor classes of all these divisors on V hat be torsion points. And then, okay, so, well, now we have this theorem. So we have a family, S is my base parameter curve, A is an abelian scheme of dimension 2, well, of any dimension to start with, and of a curve, and we have a section that is one of the PIs I was mentioning, the divisor classes of the divisor supported by the point at infinity. Well, so we are looking at the lambda such that P of lambda is torsion, and that will correspond in our families to the lambda such that d lambda is Pellian. And well, usually this set is finite if A is a dimension, relative dimension 2. So if A is a family of abelian surfaces, then the set SP is finite, with the consequence that the set SD for D of degree 6, corresponding to a hyperelliptic curve of genus 2, well, the d lambda will be Pellian. Pellian means torsion. So, okay. Well, usually, so the set of Pellian is finite, and it is infinite if and only if one of these two conditions are satisfied. So capital A and capital B are the exceptional cases. What can be exceptional? Well, of course, the section P may be generically torsion, and then all its values are torsion. So in that case, you can guess that all lambdas will give you a Pellian one, will be Pellian. If the corresponding problem, P is torsion. But the second possibility arises in case A splits. So, in this case, then there will be, in fact, so if A splits, if A contains one elliptic curve, then we know that it contains two. It is isogenous to a square, or to a product of two elliptic curves. And if P lies in one of these elliptic curves, then I said that the set SP will be infinite. Indeed, in that second case B, we are studying the same type of problem, but now E is relative dimension 1, and it is an easy exercise, well, not trivial, but, well, anyway, no, it's not trivial, but it is well known, I think, now in the audience. It's a feature that Umberto Zanier calls torsion value for a single point, and which I prefer to call relative dimension 1, because, and that says that if you have a family of elliptic curves and a torsion and a non-torsion section, then the non-torsion section meets infinitely many torsion points, unless the family is constant and your section is constant and not torsion. So this is what's explained here. And I explained that relative dimension 1 usually brings infinitely many possibilities. Okay, so no, I continue. There is a possibility, yeah, maybe I'll just go here. You see, I claim that, well, now we understand the first two unnamed results, namely for D equals 4, because this corresponds to elliptic curves. Genus is 2 of V square equals T4, etc. So we know that usually it's relative 1 situation, so infinitely many lambdas will bring torsion values, and so will bring Pellian delta lambda, where there is a solution. And same for the second one. But now I can explain why I distinguish between the two. Because as we will see, the second one, delta dash, if you look at the elliptic curve V square equals delta dash of T for any given lambda, well, in fact, this curve has complex multiplication by I. So it means it is isoconstant. If you compute the J invariant is constant, so it is isoconstant. So we must be careful to check that the torsion, the section P in our case, is not constant, because in the constant case, you could avoid all torsion. In the constant case, either section is not torsion, it meets infinitely many torsion points, or it is constant but not torsion, then it means no point. This is the reason why the two are deciphered, but the result is the same, because in the second case, the section again is not constant. Okay, so now how to deal with non-separable polynomials? Well, the answer is well known. A non-separable polynomial means the curve v square equals d of t has a singularity. And indeed, if you look at v square equals t minus rho square times delta of t, you see that at the number with abscissa rho, there is a singularity. 2 points have collapsed. So the way to present this better is to start with the smooth, complete curve, which is called the v hat, and to pinch pairs of points. So in our case, we have to pinch only one pair of points, those at abscissa t equals rho. Okay, and then we delete some points because, well, we are in affine curves. And, well, we get what is called, well, we get curve W, open, affine, and with singularities which are of normal type. Okay, so this again has a Jacobian, even when you have singularities, called generalized Jacobian. And you start with the divisor, avoiding the points where you pinch. You set with the divisor, and then you define the strict equivalence class of a divisor. It's the same first, but to be zero, in other words, for two divisors to be equivalent, not only their difference must be the divisor of a rational function, avoiding, but also that these functions take the same value at 2 points which you have collapsed, so that now it defines a function on the singular curve. So a generalized Jacobian, you see, there is a map, V hat is the normalization of W hat, so you have a map from V hat to W hat, and looking at PIC, you get a map in the reverse side. So the generalized Jacobian is an extension of the Jacobian of the normalization by a torus, and which is parameterized by these points, the points where we have pinched. Okay, so now this is explained here, and exactly the same proof as a bit earlier. The first exact sequence here, you see, is the same as the one we mentioned a bit earlier. So we have the same result, that the rank of the units will be as big as possible, S, leading to a Pelion polynomial, if and only if the divisor here, the same as before, except that now we look at its strict equivalence class in the sense of the generalized Jacobian is torsion. So it's the same thing. And then we have this theorem, so which is due to the this work with 3 authors and another one. And it starts exactly like the Marseille-Zanier theorem. G now is a semi-abelian variety of relative dimension 2, as before, as on the previous slide. And we look at this set, and it's usually finite, bringing to non-Pelion polynomial, but it brings infinitely many Pelion polynomials if and only if one is these 4 exceptional conditions are satisfied. So you see there are more than before in the case of abelian surfaces, but well, the situation is different, but so there is an increase of special curves, but of special cases. But the idea is exactly the same. P tilde could be torsion, then all its values are torsion, and so all the polynomials d lambda are Pelion. Second case is, well, a bit like previously, we had the abelian variety. It could split, and generically split. And similarly, in the product of two elliptic curves, the semi-abelian variety, in case B, means it could split, be isogenous to a product. And then, if the section P tilde goes into the elliptic curve, or the GM, then we are in relative dimension 1, and so we expect to have infinitely many, but sparsely many, points where d lambda is Pellian. So, okay, then B dashed is, I put a special case here, B dash, because GM always is a algebraic subgroup of G, so we must always have to consider B dashed. And the last case, C, is more mysterious, something I call the Ribet section. And all we have to know about Ribet sections is that they have the property that if they project to torsion points on the elliptic curve, on the abelian variety, then automatically there are torsion points on the semi-abelian variety. They lift torsion values of the abelian variety to torsion points of the semi-abelian variety. Okay, so sketch of proof, so I've already explained the four first cases, yeah, after describing Marceau-Zagnier theorem on abelian surfaces. So we can go to the next slide. I just point out, I told you, in this case, delta dash, yeah, the elliptic curve is isoconstant, I said, and you see it's clear. After an extension of the field, of a base extension of S, your curve is a standard curve with complex multiplication. Okay, so now for the non-separable case. So we have to look at 4 plus 2. That meant, yeah. I'll try something. Okay, so we are in these last two cases to explain. So there is this polynomial which have a square root of multiplicity 2, and here as well with the correction. So these are the cases we must explain. Hop. Yes. So we have to say that we are not. So in the first case, which called K, the first case little 1, we have to show that there is finitely many lambdas. So in a sense, we have to show that we are in the usual case, and it's explained here on the slide. P is not torsion. So usually, for most rows, we are in the usual case, and there are only finitely many solutions. The case where the semi-abelian variety splits, the extension splits, brings a special study, but luckily we can say that in this case the section P tilde does not factor through the elliptic subscheme, and so the only difficult case would be B, but it cannot occur. So this solves, if I can say so, case 4 plus 2, 1 of the theorem. As for the second one, well, the curve, as I said, has complex multiplication by I. The points are given on this model as explained here. So you see the relations at the bottom of the page here. That's the point which we pinch, where we pinch the curve. And that's the points which we withdraw. So we have this relation for the linear divisor classes, the linear equivalence classes. And now, well, that's the property. This can be recognized as a Ribet section with this property. So I cannot say more. That was the proof of this last claim. essentially, it's an application of Weyl's law of reciprocity. Okay, so I have 1 minute left, I think. So we go to, let's say, general feelings about these problems of unlikely intersections. So, in the sense, you see, I've listed the situation for separable polynomials, and, well, avoiding the exceptional case, we can remember that for quadratic, all polynomials are Pelian. So special means to be Pelian, because usually a polynomial is not Pelian. Quartic, well, infinitely many, but sparsely many. It's a relative dimension 1 question. D equals 6, finitely many. That's for separable case. So the non-separable one I view as the separable one in degree 2 less than the degree, yeah? So it's the delta, and then you add a 2 to get a polynomial of degree d, degree of delta plus 2. So, and that corresponds to asking that the solution be in the non-maximal order. It means that its y component vanishes at the point where we have pinched, so I can view it as a contact condition. And imposing these contact conditions bring a new constraint, and means that you read, so you take d equals 2, add a 2 means you ask that the solution, so we know that there is a solution, but we ask that this solution, or one of the solutions, vanishes at rho. It's a new constraint that drops you to the case d equals cat, separable case d equals cat. Same story from d equals cat to d equals 6. So d equals 4, quadratic, so we will start with an elliptic curve. We impose condition, that means we look at solution on the pinch curve, and that has a feeling of taking the situation d equals cat to the situation, so add 2, k 4 plus 2 equals 6, and you get to the situation d equals 6. So that's what I said in the ladder, it's going down. And I view this situation, which is just an illustration of unlikely intersection, as the analog of a recent result of Morin and Marché, which is unlikely intersections in a new setting, namely, we heard in Francesco's talk yesterday about this unlikely intersection, a curve intersecting with the union of subtorials of codimension R, and well, there are these two results. So the first one is an illustration of relative dimension 1, and the second one is standard unlikely intersection. But if you keep 1, so we know that this set is infinite, but ask that the points, the intersections, are non-transverse, are singular, so there is a contact condition written here, then you have the result that it is infinite. So there's the same shift of condition when we ask for this contact condition. Okay, so thank you.
Are there questions?
The fact that you treat only degree up to 6, is it because you have only Mazza-Zanni theorem for relative surfaces?
Let's say that it is because there are it is clearly abelian schemes are part of their result, and they are very cautious. So after doing 4, 6, they will do 8 maybe. But fundamentally, no, you can take any degree, even degree, larger or equal to 6, then the conclusion is the set of Pelians is finite.